ReadYO Radio. That's ReadYO Radio on UrbanNationRadio.com, broadcasting live from the underground, aka the basement of 90s Knowledge Cafe. And so we're excited to be here and continue talking about propaganda. This is episode 32, which means that we've been going for 8 months strong, every Tuesday night from 8 to 10 p.m. If you know somebody that hasn't been checking out ReadYO Radio, ask them what are they doing with their life on Tuesdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Get them in front of a digital device and watching the show and listening in. So anyway, Culture, you were saying something about the different ways that propaganda affects us, and I know you wanted to transition into the some of the other ways that we're affected. You know, sometimes we don't think that we're being affected. We like to think that we can listen to music and I can listen to Lil Wayne and all day and night, and it won't affect me. It's just entertainment. So at what point does it is it more than entertainment? Maybe you'll get into that in your explanation.
Yeah. I say it's more than entertainment it's more than entertainment when you don't understand what is happening the long term effects, when you get caught up in it, because it's really about an emotional response. It wants to grab your attention and then have it so that whenever it comes in your world, whether you're riding past a McDonald's or whether somebody walk in with a bag with a golden arches, you just see it and it automatically creates a response to you. Now, if you're one of those people who are actually going to eat there, it's going to make you think about going to eat there. Now, if you think one of the people trying to get away from it, it's going to tempt you. If you're away from it, you're going to probably be like, well, why would a person eat that? It's just, so even without it being like propaganda designed to encourage you to go there and eat, it's a form of propaganda in and of itself. And if we're not aware of it, we don't understand that our thoughts, we talked about this when Dr. B. Sirius was on the show, about thoughts becoming words becoming actions becoming habits, and that habit becoming your ultimate character, who you are. And so again, if we start developing certain responses to it, let's say we have a family member we love and they constantly have addiction with it, and we want to help them with it, but they're not ready for it. Now that creates, that symbolism has created a whole new paradigm. So now you may not say, well, I'm not eating it myself, but now how do you deal with people who are around you who you love and eating as well? In other ways it can manifest, but primarily it's understand that our subconscious mind is going to pick up on everything it sees around it and not judge it. It's just like a video camera. You're just going to observe everything, and then however the energy has been flowing through your body over and over again is typically how it's going to respond. And that's what they're trying to get. They're trying to get you to watch this commercial, go have a good experience, and just have that continuous. Meanwhile, they're not giving you a proper education to evolve you with the proper holy body, with the right food, so that you get caught in that loop and just going back to the same thing. So, in a way that manifests in people who you care about, loved one life, is going to affect you. Whether you say, "Oh, I'm not listening to the Lil Wayne," and you may listen to it at the gym, and maybe you just do it for their adrenaline. I understand that still, but the point being again is how do you feel about it when so-and-so listening to it, for different reasons. So you're going to be affected by it because it's designed to affect you.
Yeah, they don't pay these people millions of dollars for it not to affect you. It's like they know exactly, what they're doing. It's a science to it. It's not just, they just picked up and say, hey, come over here and we're going to pay you a couple $1 million to rap a song. Like, it's all strategic. Like, it's so many PR people and so many people that's behind the scenes. Like, the only person you see is Lil Wayne or, whoever the rappers are. That's all you see. But you don't see, the thousands of people behind the scenes that's creating the beats, that's, his personnel. He has people who design his clothes and everything. Like, it's all systematic. And that's the thing that people fail to realize is that, where do you get your idea of fashion? Where do you get your idea of what's cool and what's not cool? You get it from TV, and it's not haphazard. It's like they set the trends. They tell you what to be emotional about. Because if you just saw, Mike Brown getting killed as a news story on the local news, and they only played it one time, it wouldn't have been anything, nobody would have said anything about it. Because the repetition, they keep playing it over and over and over and over, it's like now it's evoking this emotional response in you that say, oh, we should do something about this because the media told us that we should do something about it.
Yeah, I want to also, a lot of people, again, I want to challenge people who claim they can have awareness of something and be conscious of it and not allow it to affect them. Still, with 9/11 is a great example, right? Mm-hmm. They show these buildings falling and getting flown into over and over and over again.
Yeah, for months.
That was the only footage they had, though. There was nothing in Pennsylvania. Yep. There was nothing in Washington at the Pentagon, and so the thing is, they had to.
There was pictures.
There was pictures, and it was rubbish and holes in buildings. But the point is,
that's propaganda.
That was propaganda. And if you were really aware, and if you were like being your, I would say, complete being self, and we had a healthy society, once we realized, oh man, the emotions of what happened went away, we would have changed everything then. But we didn't because the propaganda worked. You see, so people say it don't work, but it worked.
Just imagine all of the people who signed up to go to war to fight the big bad terrorists and to go find the boogeyman, aka Bin Laden, because they had that emotional response. They wanted people to feel patriotic, and that's one of the things I have on here is part of propaganda is using slogans that are vague and stuff that you can't disagree with. So they use stuff like support our troops. That's propaganda because like I don't want to not support the troops. I don't want to look like the bad guy, so support the troops. But what do support the troops mean? It means go over here and kill, almost 2 million innocent people because of a false flag attack, known as 9/11. So
emotions.
That's propaganda right there. And so Info Keith, you kind of touched directly on one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and twice actually, with the war, with the selling of war, promoting war, but it doesn't look like they're promoting war, right? It's very sophisticated. These tools that are being used, aimed right at the hearts and minds of the people, and so there's the selling war, and there's also the other money side of it, which is marketing and public relations and all of the analysis that goes into coming up with these commercials and how much money these people are being paid, millions and millions of dollars to create these images. And so one of the people, when you start doing research, and one of the people that keeps coming up is first Sigmund Freud, who is if anybody knows anything about Sigmund Freud, he's looked at as one of the greatest thinkers of 19th century. And, that, of course, that's debatable. But he basically was hired by many large corporations to develop, he's known for his work in analyzing the mind and knowing how sexual triggers and how to influence people's behavior through what it is that they influence behavior through stimulus, and so he had he pretty much had his whole family, Anna, Freud, and he had a nephew by the name of Edward Bernays, and definitely look that up, Edward Bernays, Bernays, and you'll see that he's brought us many of the atrocities that we've seen today, perfected the art of selling war. They've even had what is it? Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. I like that show, by the way. Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, like a 5-minute story on Edward Bernays, actually 2 parts. On that, y'all should look that up as well. One's called Selling War. He was very influential in getting people to smoke cigarettes and make cigarettes look like it was something that was healthy, cool. Like you're not in if you're not smoking a cigarette. Yeah, please.
Yeah, that was actually his first duty as like they call him the father of public relations or the father of PR, but that was like his first main thing was to get people to make cigarettes look cool. So what he did was he got models to be in a parade, and then they all walked around smoking cigarettes. And it was like that's what made cigarettes become cool and fashionable, and then it made women think that I'm independent because I'm smoking cigarettes. Before it was looked at as like only prostitutes smoke cigarettes, but then once he had those models walk in a parade with the cigarettes, now it's like, all right, now I can do that and look cool,
Yeah, so they ingrained that visual into the head, and then they had that was right around the time when women are looking for like their freedom, independent movement, and they start calling them freedom sticks.
Yeah.
So now you had a slogan and go with the image, and so now that parade becomes so engraved in your mind. We got to understand too. This is when television was really starting to gain popularity. Now we take it for granted, but that's another one of the greatest tools of propaganda is television. Mm-hmm. Once it came out, they found a way to engrave imagery right into symbolism right into your mind.
There was hopefully we'll be able to pull up the picture before the end of the show. You'll be able to see. You can look it up during the break. I know you're going to be listening to that powerful T-folk. But you can look it up during a break. Type in Edward Bernays propaganda or cigarette propaganda, or you'll see some old pictures of some models or women smoking cigarettes, looking cool. Just go to Google Images or Yahoo Images or whatever search engine you use. It's there. We're not making this stuff up. This is all factual information.
And it still affects people to this day. And a lot of people still have people dying from cancer or smoking cigarettes. I was watching the report. There's a nice show on HBO Vice. They have some good things on there sometimes. And they were showing in Indonesia, there's no cigarette regulations at all. So you can be 6, 7 years old, walk around smoking cigarettes. And I think there's a YouTube video, a little baby smoking it, and everybody made a big deal. But over there, it's like, it's funny, it's cute, so this propaganda goes far. This affects.
And I wanted to give the definition from Sigmund Freud himself of what he was asked. What is propaganda? And I want to read that definition if I can get it. Propaganda. He says propaganda is the conscious and intelligent. So not only it's aware and intelligent, conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses. And he's basically making a statement about propaganda. Let's see, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of the country. You can get people to believe what you want them to believe, then you can control them through that belief, especially if it's manufactured. Then he goes on to say, we are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This means this is the result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Edward Bernays, and he wrote a paper called Propaganda in 1928. So that's over 80, 90 years ago.
Yeah, it's it ties right into history and how everything is so connected. We talk about Nazi Germany really in the modern age really looked into how to manipulate people and got it down pat. Like they went to using, again, Dr. B. Sears was letting us informing us they use solfeggio frequencies in certain ways to make the audience just feel uncomfortable. But then when he comes on the stage, they hit with the good frequencies, and it's just the way they did it. It makes me think about how there's an overlap between individualism, individualized propaganda. Person. How do you understand how a human being will function versus now how do you get a society to function? Because when you're dealing with society functions, you're dealing with trying to get the natural to do something unnatural. Whereas on an individual level, you're trying to deal, how do I create a natural response and then infuse an idea into it, which hopefully the masses will collectively accept. And it's powerful. So they
Torches of Freedom.
look up Operation Paperclip. That's the time.
I was going to you touched on two things. I was going to.
All right.
Go ahead. Oh well. No, speaking of frequencies, I found a couple articles, but one that was talking about a technology called silent sound spread spectrum, and they used it against the Iraqi fighters, and they caused 100,000 Iraqi soldiers to just come out and surrender without even firing a single shot, because they used that frequency technology. Yeah, that was one. And two, you talked about Operation Paperclip. We talked about it a couple times on the show, but one thing that people probably don't know is one of the scientists that that they brought over from Germany to the United States. His nickname was the Angel of Death, and he was instrumental in Operation Paperclip and MK Ultra and all of these CIA programs that they used mind control techniques. That's what MK stands for, and MK Ultra is mind control. And they, it's a lot of videos and stuff about it on YouTube about MK Ultra and Operation Paperclip. But just know the same scientists that were experimenting on people, on the so-called Jews, the Nazis experimenting on the Jews, they changed those people's names and then brought them over here and worked with them. And now we have what's called NASA, which was founded by the same scientists that experimented on the people and the Jewish people.
I don't think we have NASA anymore, do we?
They just do stuff. Like
Just bought it? Somebody just buy NASA?
Just buying that.
I don't know. Anyway, it's what info Keith is sharing is that this stuff goes back, and this stuff is not just some spook information. This is declassified government documents that have to be revealed after a certain amount of time, and it's almost like they don't care if you know.
Speaking of that, so y'all keep touching on stuff. But speaking on not caring if you know, 9/11. I have statistics that 87% of the people believe that it was either an inside job or the government had prior knowledge. It's like, so 87% of 312 million people in the United States believe that something was fishy about 9/11, but yet what can you do about it? So like, really, they don't care if you know. So that's why the people need to come together and I don't want to necessarily say do something about it, but at least strategize and not just sit around and walk around and protest and complain, but actually, strategically collect and do something.
I think one of the most silent propaganda words that we use today is race. Seriously. And again, I'm not one who don't know history and don't understand what has happened, but just looking at that word race and how it's used, like how the mind, there's nothing in your mind when you hear the word race, it's not going to make you think about some race or some. You use the word to define itself. That's when you know it's worked. Because at that point, there's nothing else that kind of, the picture and image. And I think that goes into understanding that what we're dealing with right now is a global issue on a large scale. And one of their greatest tools is to use race to divide people, and then they just control it.
Race, religion, everything.
Yeah, race, religion, and it goes into Operation Paperclip. Nazi Germany was I guess you can call it sanctioned or got the blessing from the Catholic Church. And once all that happened, everything broke down. The Catholic Church helped funnel them to this country here, and that's how this country really became just a continuation of all Nazi Germany research. The fluoride in the water is a big thing.
Read my mind. I was waiting to say it. All right, we gotta go to break. So we're gonna. One thing I was gonna say was that there have been multiple things that have been brought to us by Edward Bernays and a host of other people. And so we would love for the people listening, the viewers and listeners, to share some of what they've experienced as the ill effects of propaganda over history. And we want to read some of your comments on air when we come back. Keith?
Well, I just thought you was going to say the fluoride thing.
Nope. I'm going to wait later. I'm going to say it later.
Well, we'll wait to talk about fluoride. But
I really wanted to say it. He's in my head. So we're going to take a quick break and come back. Take a quick break and come back with some more information. Get somebody tell them download the Urban Nation Radio app and click on ReadYO Radio. This is ReadYO Radio. We'll be back on in a few moments. Peace.